Hi everyone, I'm Jolima and today we're going to talk about the Castillo coffee varietal. The Castillo coffee varietal, it's a coffee varietal very common in Colombia and it is actually a hybrid. That means it was created through a process called hybridization. I'm gonna leave it right here for you. And this means that two plants are crossed together to create another plant. The beauty of processes like hybridization is that you can take the good qualities of a coffee, like the flavor and the size and the profile in the cup, and combine it with the good qualities of another varietal that is resistant to pests and that is stronger in certain areas, and make a plant that is altogether better. And this is what the Castillo coffee varietal is. It is the result of the combination or crossing of two other different coffee varietals. It has a mother and a father varietal. The father varietal of the Castillo is the hybrid of Timor, and the mother varietal of Castillo is Caturra. The best characteristics of these two varietals were taken into account in order to create Castillo. And thanks to that, Castillo is a varietal that has a medium size like the Caturra, good productivity, it is not very susceptible to pests like Roya, it has really good size on the beans, it has really good cup quality, it's got the potential to be a specialty coffee, and it has even scored over 90 points in the past when it has been tested along with other types of varietals. It's resistant to another pest called CBD, which affects the coffee cherry. We don't have that pest in Colombia yet, but it is in other places of the world, and it is just a matter of time until it arrives to Colombia, just as Roya or the leaf rust did. To better explain how the Castillo varietal was created in Colombia, let me tell you a little bit about the coffee history in Colombia. The first seeds of coffee that arrived to Colombia were Bourbon varietal, and they arrived to Colombia through Brazil in the 1700s. In 1730, the varietal Típica arrived to Colombia through the Caribbean, and just like that, the coffee industry was born in our side of the world. In 1927, the varietal Caturra was discovered in Brazil. This varietal is known because the trees don't grow too high as many other varietals. They stay of a medium size, which makes it easier for the coffee producers when picking the coffee. Therefore, the Caturra varietal has become the mother of other varietals that also have the same characteristics. In 1927, in Colombia, the coffee producers got together and created the National Federation of Coffee Growers, also known as the FNC. In 1938, the FNC created CENICAFÉ. CENICAFÉ was created with the intention to provide technical and scientific support to the coffee producers and has earned a place today as one of the biggest coffee research centers in the world. In 1953, the varietal Caturra arrived to Colombia, and in 1980, CENICAFÉ released the first improved coffee varietal in Colombia, and they named it Colombia varietal. In 2002, they released a second varietal known as Tabi, and this varietal was released for those coffee producers that prefer trees that were a little taller, since the trees for this varietal are not as short as, let's say, the trees for Caturra. In 2005, and after many years of work, the varietal Castillo was finally released for the first time in Colombia, along with several regional Castillo varietals that CENICAFÉ designed to produce in each of the regions of Colombia. Colombia is a country with a lot of different microclimates, so these varietals were designed according to the microclimate of each region and having into account things like the elevation and susceptibility to different pests, which will provide the best results for each of the coffee producers into each of those regions. And in addition to that, it's got 35 progenes. This means that there were 35 small families that composed a big family that will be the Castillo varietal. To make it easier, let's just pretend the Castillo varietal is one single family and that family has 35 members in it. This was done like that so that each of the members of the family will have certain characteristics that will make them stronger, and all combined will make for a varietal that is less susceptible to pests and that will provide more security and less risk to the coffee producers. So when you walk into a coffee plantation of the Castillo varietal, if you look carefully, you can see that some trees might look different than others. The leaves on one tree might be a little different from the leaves in another another tree, and this is because the whole lot is composed of different progenes or types of trees. Now, as time has passed, some of these progenes have shown weaknesses and they have been slowly removed. Today, we have about 15 progenes only of those 35 that we started with. In this point, it is important to keep in mind that as coffee producers in Colombia, when we want to plant a lot of Castillo varietal, we try to purchase the seeds from the National Federation of Coffee Growers or from CENICAFÉ because these are certified seeds. This means that they will make sure that first, all of the seeds are of good quality, and second, that all of the progenes that make up that variety are included into that sample of seeds. The less variety that you have on your coffee lot, the bigger the chance that you might get a pest. It takes a lot of years to develop a varietal because coffee is a plant that takes a long time to grow. So you need about 3 years before you get the first harvest. And when developing a varietal, the scientists have to evaluate not only the physical qualities of the plant and the resistant to pests, but also the cap quality and the scores that it can achieve depending on the different processes. And for this, you need to get production, and they need to have several generations of coffee in order to determine the quality in the cap of those coffees. The Castillo coffee varietal is a complex and complete coffee varietal, created not only to provide coffee producers with more security and to reduce the risk when it comes to planting coffee for them, but also with the intention to consistently provide the best cup of coffee possible. We have seen over and over again that the quality that we get from the Castillo coffee varietal can be very high, and coffees from this varietal can easily score over 90 points if processed responsibly, just as any other varietal. So even though there have been questions before about the capacity of the Castillo varietal to become a specialty coffee, this has been over and over disproven because of all of the really nice tasty coffees that have come out of Colombia, made it into the specialty coffee market and beyond in terms of quality. However, the Castillo coffee varietal, as any other varietal, is a varietal that will adapt to the weather and that will evolve with time. So in Colombia, at the Coffee Research Lab, the work is constant to develop new and improved varietals that are able to adapt to the environment and the changes in the environment. It is crucial that we identify the importance of the coffee varietal, not only for the coffee producers in Colombia, but also for the coffee consumers, because at the end of the day, it provides more stability than some other varietals that are higher in risk, which limits the ability to plant in many times. As a country, we need to protect our coffee and our position as coffee producers in terms of quality and also production. And varietals like Castillo have been the way to do that, especially for the small coffee producers that live off their coffee plantations and that don't have a whole lot of land. This varietal is very important because it allows them to reduce the risk of losing their entire crops or their entire farms to a pest or any other situation that can involve the quality of the plant itself. Small coffee producers many times cannot take the risk of producing varietals that are too susceptible or too risky to produce and that maybe have 50 or even less chance of survival, especially because they don't have the money or the capacity to take on that loss. Bigger coffee producers with bigger farms or that maybe don't live off their farms entirely are able to do this type of experiments. And of course, there are many coffee producers in Colombia that produce other varietals like Bourbon, Geisha, varietals that are a little more susceptible or sometimes even a lot more susceptible to pests like Roya or to changes in the weather. But the difference with these coffee producers and the smaller ones is that they have the economic capacity to take on that loss or to invest in those types of experiments. For the majority of coffee producers in Colombia, the very small ones, it is hard to do these types of experiments or to invest this type of money on their farms and assume that type of risk because they know that their livelihoods depend on it and their families depend on it as well. Experiments in the processing methods, however, are more easy to try. So trying out processes like natural, anaerobic fermentations, longer fermentations, honey coffees, these are things that we can easily do and that small coffee producers can also do with less risk than if they plant a whole new varietal, because it can be done in smaller quantities and experiment until you kind of have it nailed down, and then you can do bigger lots of it. To summarize, the Castillo coffee varietal is a hybrid varietal, which means that it was created by combining two different varietals. The father of the Castillo coffee varietal is called the hybrid of Timor, and the mother is the Caturra. So the scientists took the best things of these two varietals and combined them into one. The Castillo varietal is also composed of several progenes that make up the whole family. They are different from each other and make up a complex varietal. This is why when you go into a coffee plantation that is Castillo, you might see trees that look different from other trees, or maybe the leaves look a little different, or the coffee cherries, or maybe some trees are taller than others even though they were all planted at the same time. This is because there are different progenes into the same lot. Which this allows us to do is to diversify the whole lot or the whole varietal, reducing the risk for pests, which increases the chances for coffee producers to have a stable amount of production and to keep their farms for longer and keep their families safe for longer. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something new. Please leave your comments or questions in the comment section below. Like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. And that being all, I will see you next time. Adios!